Hey, I'm Blizzard Planet. This is Self-Friendship Podcast, where playfulness meets societal reflection. Through the lens of self-friendship, the daily practice of embracing, understanding, and enjoying ourselves. I hopefully inspire you to critically think, creatively think, and optimistically approach life. Imagine this. You hopped on the band rocket, and now you're on Planit Butter, a world made of delicious, sparkly peanut butter. And an adorable disco ball of self-reflection is whirling around in her transforming convertible. Thank you for joining me in my 47th episode. Some of what I'll be sharing includes my answer to last week's question of the week, why we should neglect finances, why breathwork is more valuable than physical activity, a self-friendship article snippet, transcending limitations, perspective dance with human extinction, and as always, a brand new question at the end for all of us to self-reflect and self-connect and email me, selfriendshippodcast@gmail.com. My answer to last week's question of the week, which was, when you try saying, "Uni's got it," as a reminder to pass the baton, what ends up happening as a result? Okay. Also, by the way, guys, you see my flower? It's from my orchid. It fell off just in time for the episode, so yay! Okay. So as a loving reminder, the concept of, for those of you listening, I have an orchid in my ear. It's very pretty. If you want to see it, check out the video. Okay. Now, a loving reminder, the concept of passing the baton can be found on episode 44. So it's like letting go, okay? But better. So something I've been seeing myself be really excited about were two of the podcasts that I've been on, that I've been recently interviewed on. Each had its own delay. Part 2 of the Voices in Our Heads with Christina Hutchinson wound up being released a few weeks later than anticipated, and the clips were even more delayed than anticipated. And the other show was the recording of my interview on the Burnout Club with Patrice Bonfoglio. That one was delayed by 1 week. Now, I'm already super grounded in my trust of the timing of the uni, but I've been super excited about both of these interviews, so reminding myself, Uni's got it, has been super helpful to me. So, to answer the second part of the question, what was the result of these delays? For the Voices in Our Heads clips, I've realized that part of the delay has become that the clips are actually going to fuel the support of my Self-Friendship Podcast bonus episodes featuring your world, because the clips are me giving advice to Christina's listeners who submitted questions, and now that's what I'm doing for my bonus episodes. Yay! And I didn't know that I was going to be doing that until last week. So now I have the clips ready to be supporting what I'm actually directly working on. Whereas if they released sooner, well, of course, they would still be beneficial to Planit Butter and beneficial to you lovely advocates watching the advice. They are even more beneficial now as a taste of what the Self-Friendship Podcast bonus episode will be like. Yay! As for the Burnout Club, the result is still in the making, but part of it that I've identified is that we ended up talking a lot about Planit Butter's chapter book, 2 Types of Selfishness, which I would not have spoken about had we recorded the date we originally locked in. Because during the time between rescheduling, I reached a particular level of clarity on the chapter book that invited my willingness to actually share about it in public on a deeper level. We still don't know the entire impact this will have, but Uni's got it. I trust in the fact that the timing was aligned for me to publicly share this information, and now we get to watch the magic unfold per usual. All right. Now, put yourself in your own shoes. We're always told in talking about putting ourselves in other people's shoes. Well, that's wonderful perspective dancing. Let's also give ourselves the same gift. Sometimes we wear the same pair of shoes too much, or wear shoes too often, period. Go barefoot for a while. Try on a new pair. Buy a new pair. A fresh experience and perspective. An invitation to be objective and play with what I call perspective work. Last week on episode 46, I perspective danced parts work, a popular form of therapy, to be perspective work. Check it out for details on that. Now, actually, a follow-up perspective dance with parts work. We didn't do the dance. My mom used to actually always do this. That's not the perspective dance. The perspective dance is just a little shimmy. Hi, Mom. Okay. So a follow-up dance with parts work. Again, last week I offered the idea that we can view parts work as perspective work. Rather than recognizing, oh no, my hair, we're almost done. Rather than recognizing a part of ourselves as if it defines who we are or even as part of who we are, we can choose to recognize this part as one perspective that we hold, one narrative developed through our life experience. This shifts us more into a more flexible, adaptable, and empowered mindset. To excel in this, I'm bringing in the well-known concept of alter egos, which I'm choosing to recognize as different dimensions of ourselves. Different experiences create different alter egos. If our ego, as I define it, is our emotional and intellectual capacity as a result of our capacity for consciousness, then any alter egos that we have or are must be concentrated expressions of that emotional and intellectual capacity in particular context, resulting from our consciousness, specifically in relation to our life experiences. Our ability to self-reflect and self-connect is what increases our capacity for consciousness in these experiences, which in turn increases our ability to integrate each ego more consciously. This circles us forward to the ego, regardless of which one, being a result of our emotional and intellectual intelligence as a result of our capacity for consciousness. Perhaps you want to listen to that again. And the chapter book will be even more on that. Sick. All right. Now, why we should neglect finances, which just makes me giggle. Okay. Through the lens of self-friendship, it's crucial to neglect finances when it comes to conscious creativity. When we pair mindful strategy with prioritization of our well-being and intuition in our career development, financial gain becomes an inevitable result. When we fixate on finances, we impose limitations on our mental agility, which blocks our creativity. We don't want to block our creativity. We want to flourish in it. Okay. Or we want it to flourish. Yay. All right. Why breath work is more valuable than physical activity. I've been really excited about this one. Well, one, let's perspective dance and call it breath play. We're playing with our breath, obviously. Number two, breathing is something every living human can do. Three, breathing is something we don't require rest from in order to continue to do. 4, the better our breath play, the better our physical performance is. If we don't breathe correctly in our healthily strenuous physical activity, half the performance is already shot before you even start. And 5, now this one's a long one because it's the biggest value, as I see it, that breath play holds in superiority to healthily strenuous physical activity. Breath play actually offers equivalent benefits through hermetic stress. Hear me out. When we practice breath holds accompanied by big exhales leading up to the breath holds, we increase our ability to hold our breath for longer periods of time. During this time of the breath hold, our oxygen levels lower, so we enter a state of what's called intermittent hypoxia, which is when there are periods of low oxygen levels followed by normal levels. During deep breathing, leading up to the breath hold, oxygen levels are normal. During the hold, retention, oxygen levels then go down. When our oxygen drops below a certain point for a brief period of time, our body enters that state of hermetic stress. Again, this type of stress is the same that happens when we lift weights or engage in other healthily strenuous physical activities. So cool. We're putting stress on our body for short periods of time, resulting in muscular growth. The same goes for breath retentions. We're putting stress on our body for short periods, resulting in benefits like boosted immune system, renewing our red and white blood cells, resilience to stress in our daily life, increased neuroplasticity, better utilization of oxygen, a higher CO2 tolerance, and more that science doesn't even fully understand yet. Just like healthily strenuous physical activity, our body releases endorphins also after a long breath hold, boosting happiness and reducing stress and anxiety. Breath holds also release dopamine, enhancing feelings of pleasure. We're also boosting serotonin levels, which is the well-known happy chemical. Lastly, when we hold our breath after exhaling from the inhale breath hold, we lower our heart rate, bringing us to a parasympathetic state. This calms the body, relaxes it, and improves our focus, which helps recover our body and restore the balance after the healthy hermetic stress. Boom. I highly encourage doing both physical activity and breath play if you have the luxury of moving your body. All right. Now a self-friendship article snippet, transcending limitations. I want to primarily ground us in the fact that humans are nature. Our creativity is an expression of nature. Technology, as an expression of human creativity and consciousness, is therefore an extension of nature. To me, this means technology is a form of nature. Now, this might be tricky to wrap our heads around because technology is often viewed as practically the opposite of traditional nature and has played a huge role in driving us away from what we traditionally consider to be nature, as well as our connection to the universe. Yet, it is nature. This means humans' creative expression has disconnected us from what we traditionally consider to be nature, as well as our connection to the universe. So, our creative expression, which is a connection to the universe, has also disconnected us from our connection to the universe. This is incredible. Stick with me, please. This means that our disconnection with our connection to the universe is ironically a result of conscious creativity, our connection to the universe, which might actually increase the possibilities of our purpose. We don't need to know or perhaps agree on what purpose truly means, but we can simply allow the possibility of its existence to fuel our self-friendship practice. The fact that humans' conscious creativity can both expand and contract us as a collective, while our greatest skill is learning, fuels the necessity for self-friendship, our willingness to upgrade, to transcend limitations, to learn. Humanness is the option to accept the challenge of transcending limitations. I love that article. Read or listen to the full audio article on planitbutter.substack.com or watch my on-camera reading when you subscribe to Planit Butter's Instagram. You know what's cool? I think so. Okay. Silly girl. Now, A perspective dance with human extinction. Last week, in part of my perspective dance with the pharmaceutical industry, again, that's episode 46, check it out, I said, money's the reason for stagnancy in the pharmaceutical industry. For what? Eventual human extinction? I want to expand on that and say how much I love to play with the idea of what happens to all of our money after humans go extinct. Imagine some new species discovering all this paper floating around, and because it doesn't hold any meaning beyond what humans have assigned to it, they end up using it as like toilet paper, making artwork, whatever else their new world needs. I think it's hilarious. Honestly, if you guys have any clever, funny ideas for how another species would use cash that they find after humans go extinct, let me know. selffriendshippodcast@gmail.com. Okay, now a note on that pedestal we all talk about. As valuable as it is to remind ourselves not to put anyone on a pedestal, we are included in that. Surprise. Not putting ourselves on a pedestal is just as important. The illusion we create when we elevate ourselves risks detaching us from the full potential of human connection. Now, Hail Mary compliments. If you don't know, a Hail Mary is a last-ditch effort in sports to score. Now, a Hail Mary compliment, according to me on Planit Butter, is when cashiers toss in a last-second compliment, or honestly, any compliment, timed to get a tip. It's such a turn-off. I'm gonna tip you anyway, but a BS compliment makes me not want to. You can just be pleasant to order with and be sincere. It'll work better for you. Okay. And now a perspective dance with the first rule of improv. The first rule of improv is yes and. We always think, speak, and act in terms of yes and in response to whoever we're performing with. Now, this can be applied to everything, everywhere. This concept is to, oops, I forgot a baby flower. This concept can be applied to anything, everywhere. The concept is to sustain an expansive flow. No is like a stop sign. It cuts off the flow. The perspective dance is yes and isn't just about expanding the flow with others, of course. It's about inviting ourselves to think more and be expansive. When we say no, we're limiting ourselves, telling ourselves to stop, resulting in the conversation shutting down. See, self-friendship comes first. When we say yes and, it empowers our own mind to stay optimistic and expansive. The result being a more expansive conversation with another person because we are being a more expansive version of ourselves. And now a perspective dance with our intuition. You've heard me say our intuition is relentlessly first. Theoretically, listening to our intuition is easy. However, it's become a muscle we need to exercise because humans have the complexity of mind. So, the simplicity of listening to our intuition feels complex by default of our conditioning or hypnosis of prioritizing our thinking mind rather than our intuitive mind. We are aware of the fact that we have an intuition. So we have to talk about listening to it rather than just acting on it as we would if we didn't have the ability to know about it in the first place, which is kind of hilarious. We're so innocent. Cute little human. And a loving reminder about other people's experiences. Someone asked me recently, do you learn from yourself or from others? It's so valuable to remember that other people's experiences are not a reflection of our own. They are a reflection of what is possible and how we perceive ourselves and our relation to our world. While we can observe others' experiences and learn from them to some degree, it's important to be mindful of how much we internalize. We can use others' experiences as a point of reference for consideration when making our own decisions, but not as a path to follow. Our how will forever be different than anyone else's because our thoughts, feelings, and actions are entirely products of our own life experiences, which will always be unique to us. Okay, this one's kind of silly. So, a note on tech listening to us. Hello. I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but I definitely would prefer to be marketed things that I actually want and need. Please target me. I hate research. I don't want to go looking for what I want. I want to be told my options, and then I'll critically think about my options. But I don't want to go seeking out stuff. It just doesn't align with me. It saves me time by them targeting me. Put in the work to make the sale. I don't want to be marketed fishing gear. I mean, if I was, it might make me think twice about going fishing, But the reality of me doing it is slim. Well, I would go fishing, why not? But actually buying the gear and owning gear doesn't really sound like something I would do in the near future. And that would feel like my time is being disrespected because it could be time invested and used towards something I would want to see by being targeted. Like the way I regularly talk about my Planit Butter jet, I get ads for private jet companies regularly. That is the vibe. See you on the Planit Butter jet. Actually, guys, the other night I had a dream. I was on the jet and we were doing the craziest tricks, like flipping the jet through the sky, spiraling. It was wild. And I actually had a moment where I was scared for a second and I consciously told myself while I was dreaming to just relax. And my body, it relaxed. And then suddenly I felt that freedom of like floating around and spiraling in the jet. It was like the coolest roller coaster you've ever been on times 11. Planit Butter jet, Planit Butter jet. Okay. Now the question of the week. My default question at all times to myself is, how can I make this fun for myself? So I'm offering that as the question for you to take with you for the week. Try it out. Let me know how you like it. selffriendshippodcast@gmail.com. And bonus Self-Friendship Podcast episodes featuring your world. Each selected submission will be its own episode where I'll be giving my perspective, dancing, and opinions through the lens of self-friendship. This is, of course, not a substitute for any professional support. The bonus episodes will be available exclusively for founding members of Planit Butter's Substack publication. The link is in the show notes or on Planit Butter's link tree, accessible in my Instagram bio at Planit Butter. Planet spelled with an I. I stands for individualism, and it just so happens to be my last name. All right. To be notified and receive more playfully helpful content, sign up for Planit Butter Substack publication. I just told you where to find it, but again, planitbutter.substack.com. And the world's first coffee table book with a lesson. Planit Butter, Party of Fun, Self-Friendship in Action. It's available internationally on planitbutter.com. And please review the show wherever you're watching or listening. It's super helpful. Thanks for landing on Planit Butter. I'll see you next Thursday. From my planet to yours. Blizzard. Whee!